Hello everyone, it's Liam McKenna here from Mazars. We're just going to give people a minute or two to get started. We'll give them a second just as people start to log in. Okay. All right, look, we'll start off. So thank you all for joining us today on this webinar, which has become, I suppose, the new norm now, and we get to do it more easily. We don't have to leave our homes or our offices, so we're getting great attendance. So thank you to all the people who've been coming along to them. Today we're covering off operational efficiency through the use of robotic process automation, which is an area that I suppose has gotten a lot of focus over the last couple of years. My name is Liam McKenna. I'm a consulting partner in the Irish practice. I deal with various different topics, but robotics would be one of my key areas of coverage. And I work with two other colleagues who are on the call today and who'll be presenting. That's Martin Váross and Rudolf, Vido. Martin is the head of our Robotics Centre of Excellence, which is centred in Bratislava in Slovakia. And Rudolf is the delivery lead in that team. And we'll give you a little bit more background on that in a couple of slides' time. So before I start, just to say that there is questions. We're going to try and get through this in about 30-35 minutes. And so you do have the option of submitting questions, which you should see somewhere on your screen, an option to submit questions. So if you want to submit questions throughout the seminar, do so, and I'll be reviewing them, and depending on time, I'll just submit, we'll answer them at the end through the three of us. So what we're going to cover off is just an example or some introduction to RPA and some of the use cases, how it's used, where it's been effective, and also the types of deployment, what's involved in getting up and running with RPA. That's the crux of it. So I think the next couple of slides are just about Mazars, but given this group here actually are all Mazars clients, I'm going to go through that. You know, we're a global partnership and we're quite large and getting larger, so we won't land on that for too long. So just to structure and to maybe put a little bit of context around where I'm fitting in here and where Martin and Rudolf fit in. Mazars, the team in Slovakia and Central Europe, with some teams in India and Mexico, started doing RPA 3 or 4 years ago. And we globally decided to center our core capabilities within Bratislava, where there's a high level of expertise. And so our team there, which Martin leads, is working at the moment. They're working with me here in Dublin. They're working with in Germany, in the UK, in Switzerland, in the Central European countries, so the Netherlands. So they're working on a number of projects across the group. And we split the work really between what needs to be done with process mapping, etc., locally versus the key skills around development, which is done within the Bratislava team, and they lead it for us. So we have a methodology which they continuously improve based on our experience over the last 2 years since we've been formally following this model. And so, you know, we continually get better, I suppose, as the technology improves, but also as our experience and our clients' challenges grow. And the Robotics Centre of Excellence, we have a number of licenses which we, with UiPath, Automated Anywhere, and Blue Prism, which are leading vendors in this platform, in this area. So, you know, look, we have a fair bit of experience at the moment. We have skills globally, and we have a team both, so we deliver based on a Centre of Excellence model. So maybe just to get on to the crux of it and what is RPA. So RPA is not, well, it's not a robot. I was in one meeting for an hour and somebody at the end said, so it's not a robot. I was like, okay, I missed something there. So it's a piece of software that sits on an equivalent of an end user device. So, you know, I'm sitting here, look, my laptop, it actually has the RPA software on it, and it can do certain activities for me as if I was doing them myself. So it's a new type of software platform that's able to mimic human behavior and operate desktop applications instead of a person. So we can get onto that, but it can open emails, send emails, you know, spreadsheets, etc., etc. And it's typically used for performing repetitive or low value tasks, which, oftentimes we'd say, what would you have your entry level people do? And that's the type of thing that potentially a robot can do if it's a structured and programmable activity. And typically then the robot it's activated by a certain event. An email is received in, or a report. For example, in Mazars in Dublin, we have to do a tax return 11 months after the filing of the initial tax return. We have to put in a second form, and so we have a batch routine that runs every month and says, okay, these all happened 11 months ago. Let's do all of the activity that's needed in order to submit the updated form to Revenue Online. So, a certain event or a date or something will activate the robot to run through its process. So it's pretty straightforward. The benefits of the robotic process automation and why people, I suppose, get into it is it doesn't require integration at the back end. It's what we call front-end integration. In effect, if I have 5 screens open and I'm needing a tab between them and copy and paste and move stuff around, the robot will do all that for me. It's a front end. It acts the same as a person, so it doesn't have all the risk associated with big IT projects. It allows the employees to focus more on the value-adding activities rather than the mundane stuff that really doesn't interest them and probably doesn't add a lot of value to the organization. It results in improved customer experience because I suppose things happen quicker. They will happen more accurately. There isn't fat fingers. Things don't go wrong. If it's programmed correctly and tested correctly, it'll continue to operate correctly and not make errors, which I suppose, where we get into call centers and large volumes of manual processing. It's what we see typically. It usually has an ROI of less than a year, or certainly that's what we target processes that have an ROI of less than a year. So it means you can, clients typically pay for it out of operational budgets. They don't need a big capital budget in order to get involved in RPA. It significantly reduces the error rate, as I've just mentioned there before, and there's a full audit trail. So there's a number of benefits to RPA that will help you or most organizations to become more efficient, more accurate, improve customer service, improve employee engagement, and do so quite quickly with a low level of risk and cost. So I think Martin is now going to take over at this point.
It's Rudolf. So Rudolf, can you please?
Sorry, Rudolf. Yeah.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Rudolf. I will now tell you a little bit about what robots can do. As Liam mentioned, the robot can actually simulate any activity that currently the employees are doing on their laptops. So it can log into certain system and navigate to a screen. It can receive email, process the attachments from the email, copy-paste information between 2 systems, make certain calculations. A robot can even use your existing Excel files to process certain business process. So the part of the logic can be in the Excel file. Robot will do the calculation in there, and then he will write down the result in application that you are using for this process. Then robot can also inform you in an agreed way about the outcome of the process. So he can either send you email with a report of the processes that he has run or the cases that were processed, and also any exceptions that require your attention. Or the robot can directly change the status in a ticketing system or directly in your ERP system, and he can put a comment there and give you information about what was processed and also about any exceptions. Also, what robots are good at is following the defined decision logic. So if there are certain cases which need to be processed differently, the robot can make decision based on the provided input. So based on, let's say, a value or a set of criteria or set of variables, and make the decision. So these are kind of activities, and then where we see the RPA to be applied, some examples. So companies quite often start with finance function, back office, and look at accounts receivable and payable, processing of bank statements, or creation of payment files, change of master data, and this could be either employee, customer, or vendor master data, and this could be creation of new partners in these systems, or change of this data. Then GDPR and other compliance processes, reconciliations, loan processing, which is bank specific. So these were just some examples, and now we will dive deeper into 2 examples that we want to show you. So these are examples from our real clients, and all these numbers are kind of the real examples. This was a PO creation process that we automated for leading beverage company. The challenge of the customer was that they had 17 different files for each department to ask for the purchase of certain goods, and then a person was responsible for collecting all this input and inputting it into SAP. What we did as part of this automation was that we created a robot that was initiated based on a daily schedule. So he had a certain window where he was working. This was during the night. So during the day, people will input all the requests, and during the night, the robot will trigger itself. It will load all the 17 Excel files. It will open SAP and create shopping cart for each line in the Excel, and also update the Excel and write down the outcome of the operation. Then once the created purchase order received approval, it will also kind of update the information in Excel and update the person who was putting the information there, the request there. And at the end, once the goods were received, the robot will create GR number and get information back to the employee that this was now resolved. So this was automated within 2 weeks. The payback period was 3 months of the investment, 3.5 FTEs effort saved, and around 50,000 cases processed yearly. So quite interesting numbers. So the robot was working across multiple applications, so working with Microsoft Excel, Outlook, SAP, and OneDrive. So this was a finance area, and we have one more example we want to show you. This was for an e-commerce company where they were managing their campaigns. So imagine that they need to prepare for a Black Friday or any other promotion, and they will want to discount a high number of products. How the company was handling it before was that all sales representatives would nominate products that would get discounted. They will send Excel files to back office departments, and back office departments would make changes in SAP to reflect these changes. And what was our solution is that the sales reps still had to nominate the products. They would send email files to the robot. Robot will validate that the provided data is correct. After the validation, he would log into SAP. He would search for the ID of the product. He will make the required changes. So he will set up the reduced price. He would set out the term to which the discount should apply. And then he will, at the end, inform the user about a successful processing of files, or if there were any problems processing the requests. Again, you can see the payback period, 6 months, more than 2.5 FTEs saved, more than 100,000 cases processed. So quite repetitive process that really saved a lot of effort to the customer. Okay, now over back to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Rudolf. So now we are going to discuss or explain which are the processes or what are the aspects that we are considering when advising clients which processes to automate, because not processes are created equal and not processes are similarly or equally fit for automation for different reasons. So the first aspect or first characteristic that we consider is whether the process is highly manual and repetitive. Robotic process automation, as Liam mentioned earlier, is meant to automate repetitive processes because we need to teach, we need to develop, we need to program the robot to perform that process. So the teaching and the development process takes certain time. So it doesn't really make sense to automate something or some process, some activity which happens every second week or once a year. Yeah. So we are considering the frequency of the repetitions of performing the process. Ideally, we are talking about processes which are performed on a daily basis or multiple hours every week, for example. The second aspect that we are considering is whether we have the right type of input. Of course, robots, the software robots are working on computers, are working on digital platforms, so they are not able to process physical things, so they need digital input. Of course, the digital input might be a table, a database, a file, or a scan of a physical document. And ideally, we are talking about structured inputs, so inputs in the same type of structure, but we are as well able, of course, this builds up the complexity, but we are as well able to process unstructured inputs such as various templates or free text by engaging other technologies such as machine learning or natural language processing.
And Martin, probably the one that's most common there is receipt of invoices, where an organization might receive, a retail organization could receive an invoice of 4 or 5 pages, and you would need to scan that. But in that instance, it would certainly make sense to go from this manual process into scanning and into digital content.
Yeah, exactly. So the scanning itself, of course, has to be performed by somebody else, but once the invoice is scanned or is just received by some electronic channel, it can be processed by the robot. If you are processing invoices or other types of documents in various templates, various structures, then we engage either intelligent OCR or machine learning technology in connection with RPA to process these types of inputs. Process maturity is another aspect that we are considering. So ideally, we are automating processes which are stable, which are not changing too often. So we can say, let's say, if the process is already stable and is being performed in currently manually by a person or more people for, let's say, at least 2 to 3 months, then it's mature enough to be automated, and we do not expect that the process is going to change on a daily or weekly basis, because then, of course, the robot would have to be adjusted. The next aspect that we are considering is our decisions within the process. So a robot is able to process or to make decisions based on clear criteria. We are looking at rule-based process, so the decisions that the robot should be able to do should be really if-then type of decisions. So if certain attribute is of certain value or higher or lower than certain value or equal to certain value, then the robot will make decision A or decision B or decision C. So this is what we call rule-based process. The next one is low exceptions rate. Of course, we're trying to help clients to automate as much processing as possible. And we are targeting, of course, full automation if possible. But if there are certain exceptions, it might be 3, 5, 10% of exceptions. We either leave these still to manual processing because it would be, let's say, too costly, it would cost too much effort to teach the robot, to develop the robot to process those various exceptions, because there might be tens of different exceptions. But it might as well make sense to automate a process with higher number of or higher proportion of exceptions, in case we will save a significant amount of effort, of course. Yeah. So, for example, if you have a process which is performed by 10 people, by 10 FTEs, and we would be automating half of the cases, we would still save or bring back to business 5 FTEs, which is significant saving. Last but not least, we are considering the complexity of the process, and there is every time the balance between the complexity of the process which drives the complexity and effort for implementing, and in other words, the price of automation. And on the other hand, the effort saved or effort brought back to business. So we are as well, all the time balancing the, let's say, the price of the automation versus the benefits of the automation. So do this type of cost-benefit type of analysis. So these are not all, but these are the main criteria that we are considering and assessing when advising clients which processes to automate. Now we are going to show you quickly how does I would say a typical automation process look like. Liam mentioned earlier that we are able to deliver the processes really quickly, the automations really quickly, and as well the return on investment. So we are typically speaking about 4 to 6 weeks projects until deployment. So the example which we have on the slide shows that during the first week of the project, we conduct a design workshop together with the client where we analyze the process, where we design the robot, where we design how the robot will perform, will automate the process. We describe all the exceptions, we describe all the decisions that the robot will need to make. We have a look at all the systems involved. So that's the first week. During the second week, we will document what we call solution design and have it validated and accepted by the client. And then we have, let's say, 2 weeks of development of the robot. And the final, the week number 5 in this example is dedicated for testing, for user acceptance testing and deployment to production operations. So this is an example of a 5-week project from the start, basically from the design workshop until deployment of the robot. Of course, selection of the right process for automation would precede this type of schedule. So that's before that. And then as well, we provide what we call hypercare or post-go live support, let's say for additional 2 weeks after deployment of the robot to live operations. Okay, so we are now going to go into, let's say, current context. Context of the current crisis. We're not going so much to discuss, how RPA can handle the current crisis, because we are hopefully getting, back to new normal. We are going to discuss, how RPA can help you in getting back on track, let's say, and as well to prepare for new, for any potential future crisis. So I will now hand over to Rudolf again.
Thanks, Martin. So as we see,
drop the slides, have you? I don't think you can see the slides anymore, Martin.
Do you see it or not?
No, Rudolf, do you see it? No.
No.
Okay, let just a second.
There you are. We can see your screen now.
Okay, sorry for that.
There you are.
Okay. Yeah. So as you can now see that the corona measures are slowly easing. The two things I think that companies need to think about going forward is, one is the preparation for the new normal. It doesn't appear that all things will go back to the let's say old normal. What the new normal will mean? For individual, it usually takes 21 days to form new habits. And since all the corona measures were with us for 2 months now, or even longer in some countries, this definitely forms some habits, and only time will tell if this will be some short-lived habits and people will get more or less to how they operated before, or this will pose certain challenges for the companies for future, how to rethink their business models. So that's, let's say, one area, how to adjust to the new normal. And the second area is how to improve the operational efficiency in a way that it will be also resilient for any type of future crisis. What we are looking here are 3 areas. So one is strong focus on digital interaction. This means that the new normal will be that people will most probably use the digital channels more, and they will also expect companies to be kind of in digital sphere and communicated with them through these channels. So there will be probably a surge and increased load on customer support online channels that need to deal with customers. And again, any kind of automation there would help them to cope with this increased load, and also new customer influx via electronic channels. And also usually customers who are using digital channels and digital interaction are also expecting, let's say, quick feedback. So if they need to ask for something via online channel and then wait for the response, this is not good enough. So RPA can be the thing that could help you to get the reaction or the answer back to the customer. This is one area. The second area is digitalization and automatization of internal processes. So by automating routine activities in your companies, you can increase the resilience of the company and also help employees to have more time to think about how to transform your business and to work on higher value added tasks. So you can look at the routine daily activities that people need to spend time with, and also some quick win area could be the simple IT tickets resolution. So again, if employees need to work from home, also in future, it is crucial that they have all the applications running, and there is nothing stopping them to operate from home. So simple IT tickets automation could be also something to help them with that. And the last part is leveraging digital document flows with partners. So in order to be able to communicate with your partners, business partners, and also B2B customers, having your contracts signed electronically, having electronic invoices, delivery notes, orders could help you to operate more digitally in this way, and also help you to deliver your services also with certain restrictions. So these were the three areas, and now we will look at some concrete use cases that could help you. There are a lot of them here mentioned, but I will just go through a couple of them from each area. So for the finance, what we see are the activities that take a lot of time of the teams. Is for the P2P team, batch payments. So if you are administering several entities and need to create a payment file that then needs to be approved by the finance manager and then loaded to the portal of your bank, then this is something that the robot can help you. Also, you can in this process have human in the loop, so the robot can send the payments file for approval to your finance manager. Then for example, from O to C part, it's invoice creation. So robot can create based on the deliveries or some other information, all the invoices, and also perform the e-invoicing. From the customer support area, robot can help you with sorting of customer requests to the right department. So the request comes in, the robot scans through it and sends it for the resolution to the right department, and it can even perform the simple requests by automatically in the system. Also, some maybe more industry specific could be delay of payments. For example, in case of banks and leasing companies, this could be something still relevant for a couple more months. Then for sales support, automation of orders processing. So once you receive order via email, for example, the robot can go to your ERP system and set up the order in the system. So it's not waiting for a person to review it and type it into a ERP system. From IT, as I mentioned, resolution of simple IT tickets like password reset or access rights creation, installation of new software. If you are able to identify the ones which occur quite often, this could be something that could help you and your IT teams to manage the workload. In the logistics, robots can help with order management, so they could monitor your inventory and make automated online orders to your partners, so you don't run out of stock. Or you could use it for automated notifications to customers. So when his order changes state, and if you don't have this feature built in your systems, the robot can book in your ERP system and send the update and notification to customers, so he knows when to expect delivery or at what stage is it in the process. And the last area is HR, where the robots can help with attendance monitoring. So if you are using different software for attendance and the timekeeping, the robot can match these two or find some abnormalities and inform employees to resolve those. And also it can run background checks of the employees and do some checks on sanction list and check this information for you. Yeah, so these were, let's say, three areas that can help you to improve. And also we now looked into several departments where you can use robots to automate. And now I will give word back to Martin.
Thank you. Just to add on this, technically, it's really, there are almost no limits in use of RPA technology. So it's possible to automate basically all processes which are being performed on a computer, on a desktop. And the list that we have here on this slide is really just, you know, some examples, some well, real life examples, of course, and things which some of them we have already implemented. We have implemented as well others which are not mentioned here. But yeah, we try to give some idea of what might be relevant in these times, and what we see as well from discussions with our clients and what we are doing currently. Okay, so I'm going to move to the last part of the presentation before your questions. Before taking your questions, we mentioned earlier on that RPA is basically, you know, being operated or runs on a computer. Of course, we are talking about we are talking about computer which might be a notebook, a PC, a workstation, but the RPA is typically deployed on a so-called virtual desktop instance. Basically, it means a virtual computer somewhere on the server. It is not required to purchase new servers for this purpose. RPA runs on so-called virtual servers. It has more components, and I'm going to explain how these components are typically deployed and where they are deployed. So to start with, this is a let's say standard type of deployment, on-premise deployment, where all robot components, all RPA components are being deployed in client's premises, so basically in virtual servers. Orchestrator, which is mentioned here, is a type of management console which gives control for the supervisor to control the robots, to schedule the robots, but also it keeps certain data for the robots. So this is a management console, but as well a robot workload management module. Typically, organizations use one orchestrator, and this is deployed on one or two virtual servers. And then we have robots. The robots in themselves, again, each of these robots uses a separate virtual machine, virtual desktop instance, or it can be as well deployed on a physical machine, physical computer. So this is completely on-premise deployment. Like I mentioned, it typically doesn't require to purchase any hardware. It just uses capacity and resources of the current IT environment that companies already operate. Then, in certain cases, it might make sense to put the orchestrator, so the management console, into cloud. Why does it help? The first kind of reason to use it is that you do not want to, or the IT doesn't want to allocate so much resources on the virtual servers for the orchestrator. The other reason might be that you are working with third party, such as Mazars or other company, which runs and maintains the robots for you. And it is relatively easy to deploy the orchestrator and as well to access the orchestrator from external company when the orchestrator is in the cloud. Yeah. So this is the second scenario. And the third scenario, which I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on, is to have the complete RPA infrastructure in the cloud. What does it mean? It means that RPA is provided to you as a service. So you as business users or the business users, do not have to care basically about operating the robots. So you are getting, in fact, the results already, which are performed by the robots, and as well your IT operations and IT infrastructure guys or colleagues do not have to spend time on maintaining the virtual servers, which they have to maintain or at least look after in case of the on-premise scenario. So we provide, or the provider of the in-cloud platform provides you the complete solution in the cloud. So the orchestrator, and whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 30 or 300 robots, they are all deployed in the cloud. The connection between the cloud and your environment is ensured by so-called secure VPN tunnel. So the connection is completely secure, no question about it. And it works in the same way as if it would be working on premise. Just to mention, or kind of to mention and describe a couple of benefits of this type of setup. You are paying only for what you are getting. Yeah, so the pricing is really transparent. You know what you are paying for the infrastructure. You know what you are for renting the infrastructure. So for the cloud, you know what you are paying for maintaining the infrastructure, and you know of course what you are paying for the licenses. So everything is transparent. You are getting it in all-in-one package, so you don't have to care about you don't have to care about licenses with somebody, some vendor or partner, then maintenance with your IT operations, and so on and so on. So you're getting everything from one partner. Security is on the highest level. We are using, and companies are using typically, the standards on the market like Microsoft Azure or Amazon Web Services, and the secure VPN tunnel between the cloud and your environment, the client's environment, is as well in line with the market standards in terms of security. Another advantage is rapid scalability. So when you need to deploy more robots than you are already operating, the adding more robots to your already existing cloud infrastructure is a matter of a couple of minutes or hours. So it's really easy to add on additional licenses or add on additional cloud infrastructure, again based on the transparent pricing. In terms of IT involvement, this is what we already mentioned. So what we need when we are setting up this type of infrastructure, we just need a couple of, say, hours of cooperation with the IT operations guys, basically one-time cooperation where IT installs instances of your systems into the cloud and sets up the secured VPN tunnel, and that's more or less it. No further IT or IT operations involvement is needed. And setup speed is a matter of 1 or 2 days. So we are able to set up RPA in the cloud within 1 or 2 days. Just to make it clear, we are not kind of persuading clients to go for this type of setup. Of course, all these 3 options and scenarios are relevant ones. For some clients, it might be more relevant to go for the on-premise scenario. For some clients, the in-cloud scenario, and for some clients, the hybrid scenario. Is just mentioning that this is that the in the cloud deployment might bring down certain barriers that you might feel or your IT operations might pose. I mean, capacity of your IT operations might pose if you would require on-premise deployment, which requires more capacity from the IT staff. Okay, so this was from my side. I will now hand over for the final word from to Liam.
Yeah, so I might go on to the questions because we've quite a number of questions, and we only have a few minutes left. I suppose the slide there is just to capture that, you know, obviously if you haven't picked it up, Mazars are able to help you if you are interested in this, and certainly you can get in touch with us afterwards through the website. But Martin, maybe just to jump onto the questions given the timing, and I'll prioritize the questions that were submitted by non-Mazars people because I can answer the other ones offline. One is, look, there's an awful lot of opportunities there. Rudolf went through a large list. Where does one start? How do you know when all of the opportunities are open to you, where the right place to start is?
Yeah, what we typically do is we hold a workshop with the client to understand what are the biggest issues in terms of capacity, in terms of effort spent on this type of repetitive activity. So we have several options to use. One of them is that we have a quite advanced evaluation model or scoring model for assessing which processes are the best ones to the best ones to automate. So we are considering the aspects which I already explained. We are considering the effort involved, the complexity of the automation, and all these things. And then after this type of workshop, we are able to advise the clients to prepare a roadmap or kind of set up the roadmap with the client, which automation makes sense, including a high-level business case. We have as well other types of technologies, other types of tools such as task mining and process mining, which we can use as well to understand where in detail are the processes, whether in which part of the process or in which department potentially there might be some issues like bottlenecks and other type of inefficiencies to basically make the process or processes more efficient.
Yeah. Okay. And maybe we probably just have time for one more question. There's a couple of people who've asked about the platforms and that there's a number of platforms. I know we referenced Automate Anywhere, UiPath. How does one select a platform? Are there better platforms than others?
Mm-hmm. Well, we work with basically with all these platforms, and as well what we didn't mention, we have also we work with a couple of let's say niche platforms or smaller platforms which might be as well relevant. We have information about let's say pros and cons, and as well of course in terms of pricing, in terms of functionalities, in terms of various plugin technologies, so to speak, of these platforms. So we advise the client based on understanding the environment, the governance, the expectations, the plans in terms of automation. So having understood this, we are able to advise the client to go for any of these platforms, or theoretically as well for let's say for smaller platforms which might be fit for purpose for specific
and
cases.
I know. Yeah, and I suppose just, you know, I know recently we helped a client in Dublin. They're setting up their Centre of Excellence, select their platform, and we did it over, we had a workshop to cover many different items, but we basically over the course of a day just identified what are the critical drivers for them out of our entire selection, which ones were most important to them, and then we reviewed the technologies based on that, and we're able to give it some advice and some, you know, pros and cons and where particular platforms are stronger or weaker. But I think that's our 45 minutes up. So I might go back to other people with questions separately to this, if that's okay. And I'd just like to thank all of the people who attended today very much for coming along and making the time. And Martin and Rudolf, thanks for helping us with this today over in Ireland. And good luck to everybody, and we'll talk again soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.